Some people may think that you're too young to start saving for retirement, but now is the perfect time to start. And although there's 1,000 things I could go into, as well as other financial professionals in the room, I'm going to keep it as specific as I can while still giving you takeaways that you can implement today. So when thinking about investing, there's 4 I would consider main accounts that you can invest in. There's an individual brokerage account, which you can compare to a savings account. There's retirement, which we're going to talk about both of those tonight. And then there's also trust accounts, which can help with estate planning, and accounts for minors, like your college accounts, your UTMAs, stuff like that. So we're going to focus on the first 2. And a lot of people, when coming to me with questions, don't realize what an individual brokerage account is. It's essentially, you can put money into it at a financial institution and you can invest from that. You can also keep it in cash. You can treat it however you want based on your goals. And we're going to ask a few questions tonight. If you were to start investing, what would you consider the first thing that you might do?
401k.
Okay, start with 401k. A Roth, okay.
Tax shelter.
Tax shelter, perfect.
All in the backyard.
Okay, we're going to take it all the way to the beginning. What?
An investment advisor?
What? You're going to start there? You could start there. Perfect, yes. Okay, and your investment advisor is going to tell you that you should really start with your budget. If you don't have the money to save for your retirement, for your investment account, for your tax sheltered account, if you don't have the extra cash flow, then what are you doing? So if you start with your budget and make sure you can save additional money per month, then you'll be able to really invest and get into the nitty-gritty of it. Just so I don't waste your time, how many people in here are currently using a budget? That makes me so happy. Okay. Okay, perfect, good. My only comment to that would be revisit it. Don't set it and forget it. Revisit it when some life event happens, you get a new job, you get married. Obviously, all of that will be changing. Also, there could be a subscription you forgot about. I'm not huge on the apps that you can use for budgeting. Sometimes they don't allow you to customize it the way you want to, so I'm an Excel spreadsheet kind of gal. But if you do want to use an app to kind of review the subscriptions you have and make sure you know how much you're spending on food, I like Mint a lot. It allows you to, what I found with other apps, you can't recategorize an expense. But with this app, you put your banking information into it, and if something comes out wrong, for example, my gym membership is under a different name. It thought I was eating that much every month, but I was able to recategorize it to say that this is the gym, and it fixed my budget, and we were all in a good place after that. So be aware. I'm so happy to see so many people are doing a budget. A lot of what I'm going to talk about can vary between people, but budgeting is a non-negotiable. You have to do it. You have to know what you're spending, and you have to revisit it every once in a while. So once you have a budget and you're able to see a little bit more about your flexibility and what you're spending, the second thing you would think would be to now you can invest, but not yet. So in order to prepare to invest, and have you guys heard of Dave Ramsey's 7 Baby Steps to Financial Freedom? So to that point, before you invest, you have to make sure you have an emergency savings set aside, as well as getting rid of that credit card debt that you have a high interest rate on or something like that. With that program, and I have the baby steps right here, if you haven't heard of it, I really encourage you to look at it. It is perfect, I would say. The first 3 steps is what you need to do before you see step 4, that's invest. It's not step 1. So there's a few things you can do: establishing your budget, paying off those high interest rate debts, as well as getting emergency savings, because if something were to happen, you need to be able to have a cushion to rely on. So now we are ready to invest. You have done your budget and you have a couple of extra $100 to invest. I like to look at things on a short-term, medium-term, and long-term time frame. And from that, we look at your goals. So if your goal is to buy a home in the next 5 years, and you haven't started on that account, then I wouldn't recommend that you go straight to your retirement account and max that out. There's other priorities you have before retirement that you need to focus on. And this is where it gets very specific for the individual, so it can be hard to make a recommendation, but I would say that when you get ready to invest, prioritize where you're putting your money based off of what you find important, buying a home. What are some of your goals for 2020 that are monetary?
Getting an investment property.
Investment property, perfect, which you need cash for. Anything else?
New car.
New car, thank you.
Pay off debt.
Pay off debt, yeah.
Oh, that's not in this.
But step 2.
Yeah.
Make double-digit returns.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so, but from that, you prioritize your goals and you are able to put your money there. Because that's so specific for every individual, I do want to focus on retirement. As I mentioned before, this is the perfect age for you to start thinking about retirement. There's your invest. Okay, so when you're talking about retirement, age is your friend. You can see here, when you're saving for retirement, a lot of times you can use whatever value you want to reach at the end. We used $1 million here, which by estimates would give you around $40,000 to $50,000 a year in retirement, with the thought that your home's paid off, you don't have any extensive circumstances that you have to support, you're just supporting yourself. So from here, look at the difference of this. If I'm 25 and I'm saving $418 a month, that's manageable. It should be manageable if you review your budget. And I could have $1 million by the age of 65, but if I wait even 10 years, I'm doubling what I need to save monthly to reach that same amount. That's insane. This is based off of an average of 7%, which you could skew either way, but for example purposes, you don't want to be 55 talking about retirement and having to save $6,000 a month. So start today, please start yesterday. Also, this is not taking into consideration employer matches, which we'll get into as well. I know this is a lot of information on the screen, but there are company plans, which would be your 401ks, 403bs, and then there's your individual retirement plans. How many people in here do not have the option to save with retirement through your work? Okay, which I would consider to be either self-employed or maybe nonprofit who don't offer it. It's up to you. That $418 on the other screen is all up to you and doesn't include your match. So you have to start thinking about these things. The main differences between the two of them is that 401k, a lot of companies provide a match. Traditional IRA, it's all up to you. There's lower maxes, so you can only put up to $6,000 in your traditional IRA, as well as throwing in a curveball, there's Roth options. So the bottom two options down here are after tax. And I really want to harp on this because everyone who is in their 20s or 30s, look at the value difference between the two accounts. Because one is before tax and one is after tax, the value of your accounts at retirement are much different. Bless you. Your traditional IRA is your normal 401k account. You have to pay taxes on that when you take it out. So if you save up $1 million for both accounts, you have before tax and after tax, the value of this one is lower because you're going to pay taxes on it. So you could it's a $100,000 difference just in taxes by the end. Last thing, be very quick. When you're looking at the investments in your retirement account, there could be a lot of things that you need to look at. And a lot of times the terminology is crazy. I've been doing this for 4 years and I still don't know nearly half of it. When you're looking at these reports that your 401k will provide, you just click on the fund name and it typically brings up a Morningstar report. What I like to look at as the advisor is the expense ratio. It's the very first thing on the page, making sure you're not paying too much in fees, as well as the words growth for your retirement. If you're young and you can afford the risk over time, you're looking for growth type investments, as well as you can look at historical return, but of course past return is not indicative of your future return, and then as well as risk versus reward. The index is something that they will compare your fund to. It's comparable and will fluctuate with the market. You can see that the fund in this example is the blue dot, and the index that they're comparing it to is the red dot. So they'll take on the same amount of risk, which is on the bottom axis, for more return. The index is getting more return than the fund, so you have to consider, why am I investing this and not just the index? I know it's a lot, and I'm very happy to answer any questions, but I would just really encourage you to do your own research, as well as, of course, you've heard this quote. By that I mean follow things that are going to encourage you to save for retirement and invest and review your budget. Be around friends who encourage that. And so these are a few Instagrams that I follow that, you know, when you're scrolling and you see like a bikini and then you're like, oh, I could save for my retirement. It's a great reminder to keep that in front of you. But that's everything I have. I'm a little bit over time, but it's a lot of information.
Good job.
Any questions? Jessica.
If you're already maxing out your traditional 401k with your employer, do you recommend a Roth or traditional IRA?
It depends on your tax bracket. So as I mentioned before, the tax that you'll be taking out at a later date is really important. If you're in a lower tax bracket today than you anticipate you'll be in retirement, then you should do a Roth, because you're essentially paying the taxes today and later you won't. Let me make sure I said that right. Yeah. I've been. But yes, if you've maxed that out, then perfect. I would recommend a Roth as long as you're not in too high of a tax bracket, because the exponential return that you have when it's not taxed at the end is super important. So Roth is my vote for someone like you. Also, the average age of our club is 28, so that's kind of where I'm speaking to the 25 to 30 range. But thanks, guys.